One of the saddest stories that I've seen this year that actually ties into a strong biblical principles is the story of Wendy Williams and her now confirmed dementia. Okay. Seems like there's more and more people coming out with dementia, whether that's Bruce Willis, right?
Really?
Folks that
I
are
heard about
coming
that.
out, super younger than you would think, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a clip from her reality TV show. There's all kinds of ethical questions about, is she being exploited in this documentary that she executive produced? Is she not? This was one of the viral clips, and we're going to look at what a doctor has to say about this entire situation. Check this out.
I came into your room, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I happened to notice one of your specialty items. Did you drink this whole thing today? Yes. No.
Jeez Louise, man.
So that was one of the horrifying clips that came out. You can tell her eyes are all big, and there's things going on there. But this clip that came out a little while ago, I mean, this was February 26th, but the episode was earlier, may be a hint to this new form of dementia that people are talking that she might have.
Mm-hmm.
Is this where we're going to start?
Yes. So this is a Dr. Frida, and she unpacks what her son confirmed or said is happening.
Alcohol-induced dementia. A couple of days prior to the docuseries being released, Wendy Williams' team revealed that she had a diagnosis of frontotemporal dementia and aphasia. But in the docuseries, her son, Kevin Jr., shared that he had been told that she has alcohol-induced dementia to his recollection. So let's talk about it. It is very clear from the documentary that Wendy is suffering with an alcohol overuse problem or an alcohol addiction. And alcohol-induced dementia or alcohol-related dementia is when a patient gets dementia due to long-term excessive use of alcohol, and it causes neurologic damage and impairment of cognitive function. We definitely see some signs of that, but how do you know if it's alcohol dementia or if it is that frontotemporal dementia that her team says she has? So alcohol is not only a neurotoxin, meaning it's directly toxic to the brain. Well, it can also cause a vitamin deficiency, which can give you a Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. And again, you get signs of dementia. We'll get into it. Interestingly, alcohol-induced dementia tends to affect women more than men, and women will show signs even with lesser amounts of alcohol intake than men.
I wonder if that's because women are smaller, generally speaking, than men, if it's a weight thing. Like just it doesn't take as much to impair a woman than it does a man based on just size usually.
It's possible, yeah.
That's the only thing I could think of. I didn't know this existed.
Me neither.
Until this story went viral this past week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Damage to the frontal lobe, so you have a loss of inhibition. You can lose the ability to plan or to carry out executive functioning. Like you might lose your ability to organize your daily calendar, to write a check even. You may develop inappropriate behavior and you have a lack of care about the consequences. You could care less if you're rude to somebody or if you call someone a name, like calling them dumb or body shaming them. And yes, we did see some things in the documentary which could be consistent with these signs of alcohol-induced dementia. You may experience memory loss. And we saw in the documentary that Wendy Williams forgot what the Oscars were. Again, I'm not her doctor. I don't know officially what her diagnosis is. You may also lose the ability to carry out simple tasks like getting yourself dressed in the morning. You can have an impairment of language. So you can also develop some psychiatric problems like depression, change in personality, psychosis. You can have a disconnect from reality. You can also experience anxiety. There's also a form of encephalopathy that can be related to alcohol overuse called Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. And this is due to a vitamin deficiency that can be associated with the excessive alcohol use.
All this is just making me, and I'm not like a legalistic guy. Yeah, but it's like, what is the point
of drinking alcohol?
This sounds like way more cons.
Yeah, that's a lot of a lot of cons right there.
I am not a Jesus turned water into grape juice kind of guy.
Yeah.
But goodness gracious, did the Baptists have a point on some of that after hearing all these things? And I think maybe it's different because perhaps prior to 100 years ago, it was probably way harder to abuse alcohol at the rates that people can abuse alcohol now. Just sheer access and then sheer lack of moving. Like if you're just laying around all day and you're not super duper active, and you're consuming high amounts of alcohol, that probably does a number. I'm assuming 300, 400, 500 years ago, folks were just laying around drinking all day.
Yeah, and I'm sure like if they had access to a bottle of the average folk 300, 400 years ago had access to a bottle of wine, that was a very special thing. Whereas now it's like, let's go buy a bottle and crush it tonight. Let's go buy another bottle and crush it another night. Crazy.
Yeah, super sad, man. So I don't think this is reversible.
No, definitely not.
Don't think this is reversible. And I didn't know that you could do yourself in like this.
Yeah.
She said psychosis.
A lot of the symptoms too sounded like when someone is drunk. But now it's like long term. It's like you have a lot of that like inability to write a check and do simple things and get dressed and impairment in your speech and all this stuff. And it's like, yeesh.
Yeah.
And it's like, it goes back to that overconsumption is now leading to this long-term effect.
Right. And I think a year ago, she had to have someone become what is it called? Like a right of attorney for her. Like her bank made her have someone that would basically a guardian for her, you know, as all these things were hitting the fan.
Who did?
Her bank.
Oh, her bank. Oof.
Yeah. So it's a super sad situation, but this is one of those things where like, I have zero desire to drink, you know? And it's just, that doesn't, I don't know. And again, I'm not saying this in like, if you go out and have a glass of wine or whatever, right? I think there's a time for celebration, but this just makes me go, ugh.
We had family over this past weekend, and this semi-distant family member brought over like 6 bottles of wine in like a carrier. And I was like, we don't even have wine glasses. Like, what are we going to do with this? Like, now we have little house party gifts for the next 6 special occasions to be like, here you go.
Right.
Here you go.
Yeah. Someone in the chat, Dr. Andy said alcohol is a social thing, all parties, birthdays, etc. Yeah. I mean, it is. It's like, it's a social thing. But here's the thing. Like, so is dessert. Like, dessert is a social thing. But then what happens is people then overconsume dessert, and then it doesn't become a social thing. And it's the thing you do when you're alone at night by yourself. And that's absolutely not how you should be consuming dessert or alcohol. Right? Like, because you could slowly drift into just complete addiction, full-on addiction, you know. And the scriptures we were looking at, like 1 Peter instructs us, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. So there's a command for us to be of sober mind, right? To be sober of what our thoughts are, to be sober in terms of how we're navigating, to be sober and not be drunk, right? Not be succumb to drunkenness. And so it's just so interesting that, you know, and again, there's people that can drink and don't get drunk, right? I'm not one of those people. I don't like the feeling.
Have you ever drinking before and gotten drunk?
I've never got.
I mean,
like
as an adult. As an adult,
no, I've gotten like tipsy, but not like to the point where like my speech was slurred or like I couldn't walk.
Crazy.
Yeah,
I've never gotten even remotely tipsy.
Yeah,
and so it's such a crazy thing to me that like people even get close to there.
Yeah,
but it's also like
I have a very low tolerance. Like the last time I drank was when I was in Israel and we were having Shabbat dinner.
See, I gotta be careful as I lose weight.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be rude. You know, so I had a glass of wine and like a glass of wine. I was like, oh, all right, like I'm good.
Was it a big body glass of wine?
It was a big body glass of wine. It was a big glass of wine, and I was like, I'm chilling. I'm good. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's how they get you.
Yeah. We see according to the Bible that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask Him to move on my behalf. And 2, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when He answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used from my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.